What if I told you it wouldn't be as simple as falling from one end of the tunnel to the other? As we explore this mind-bending concept, you'll discover that time itself would become a strange ally, and your journey through the hole would take longer than you'd expect. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. As you reach the center of the Earth, the laws of physics start to warp in ways both incredible and unsettling. As you approach the center, the gravitational force on you becomes weaker because the mass is distributed around you from all sides. This effect is a bit like standing at the edge of a giant trampoline with people jumping up and down all around you. The more mass there is, the stronger the gravitational pull. But as you get closer to the center, it's like getting farther away from the action on the trampoline. The force starts to decrease. By the time you reach the very center, the gravitational force would be about 0.1% of what it was at the surface. You'd experience weightlessness, and as you reached the other side, your momentum would carry you back up through the hole. But here's the thing, if you were to keep going, even after you hit the opposite side of the Earth, something strange would start to happen. The gravity on the surface is so strong that it warps the very fabric of space around our planet. This effect is called gravitational curvature, and it's like a cosmic lens that bends light around massive objects. Imagine you're standing near a funhouse mirror, those mirrors with waves and ripples in them. That's roughly what gravity does to spacetime near massive objects. Now, imagine that the Earth is that object, and your path through the hole is like a beam of light passing through it. What happens next will depend on how far beyond the other side of the Earth you go. As you keep moving through the hole, you'd find yourself approaching a point called the antipode, the exact opposite spot on the globe from where you started. But here's the mind-bending part, if you kept going past that point, you would eventually reach another point directly opposite to your starting position, but this time in the Earth's interior. This means that, depending on the hole's depth and direction, you might even exit at a location near where you began, effectively forming a closed loop through the planet. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to be a perfectly straight shot all the way through. The Earth is a big ball, but it's not a perfect sphere. It's actually slightly flattened at the poles and bulging at the equator due to its rotation. So, if you jumped through that hole, you might encounter some pretty wild geometry along the way. Imagine yourself careening off the curved surface of our planet like a cosmic pinball. You'd bounce around, changing direction with each collision, following a path that's more akin to a crazy roller coaster ride than a straight shot to the other side. It's like trying to navigate through a 3D maze while being buffeted by invisible forces. But what if I told you that there's an even crazier twist to this tale? What if the hole wasn't just any hole, but one that was magically connected to another universe, or dimension, or whatever lies beyond our reality? Would you be able to jump through and emerge on the other side of some cosmic expanse, leaving our world behind like a worn-out shoe? As you soar through the void, the gravitational forces begin to warp and distort around you, creating a mesmerizing display of celestial ballet. Stars and planets whiz by in a blur, their colors bleeding into one another like watercolors on wet paper. You feel weightless, yet somehow tethered to the fabric of spacetime itself. As you continue your journey through the hole, the air around you begins to thin out, creating a surreal landscape that's both beautiful and eerie. The curvature of the Earth stretches out before you like a giant canvas, painted with hues of blue and green. You're now experiencing what's known as microgravity, where objects, and even you yourself start to float away from each other. But here's the mind-blowing part, at the halfway point, you'd be traveling at approximately 3,600 miles per hour. That's faster than a speeding bullet, yet somehow, you're not feeling the slightest bit of G-force. It's as if you've become one with the very fabric of space-time. And just imagine this, if you were to stick your head out of the hole at the midpoint, you'd see the curvature of the Earth on both sides of you. The horizon would be a perfect circle, stretching out as far as the eye can see. It's a perspective so breathtakingly unique that it defies comprehension. But wait, there's more. As you continue your journey through the hole, you'll encounter something truly astonishing. A region of extremely high gravity, where objects would accelerate towards the center of the Earth at an incredible rate. You'd feel like you're being pulled into a cosmic vortex, with the force of gravity growing stronger by the second, until you finally reach the other side and emerge back onto solid ground. But here's the thing, if you were actually able to jump through that hole, would you end up on the opposite side of the Earth from where you started? Or would something else entirely happen? What do you think happens next? The moment you reach the center of the Earth, temperatures and pressures would make it impossible for a human body to survive. But let's assume we have a special space suit that can withstand those extreme conditions. As you continue falling through the hole, you'd pass through layers of rock and metal, feeling like you're in a never-ending elevator shaft. The further down you go, the denser the Earth becomes, and the speed at which you fall would increase. Imagine being in an express train that's constantly accelerating. That's what it would feel like as you approach the center of the Earth. But here's the thing, even with your special space suit, the journey wouldn't end when you hit the center. In fact, you'd actually go right through it. That's because the Earth isn't a perfect sphere, it's slightly flattened at the poles and bulging at the equator. This means that there are tiny imperfections in its shape, like tiny ridges or valleys, that would allow you to pass through the center without getting stuck. But what happens next is where things get really weird. As you continue on your journey, you'd start to feel an increasing gravitational force pulling you back towards the surface. This is because the Earth's gravity isn't uniform, it gets stronger as you get closer to the center and weaker as you move away from it. At this point, you're essentially in free fall, accelerating towards the next part of your journey, the other side of the Earth. As you pass through the mantle, the heat would be intense, kind of like what happens when you leave a hot bath and step onto a cold floor. Suddenly, the temperature drops dramatically. But don't worry, it's not as sudden in this case, and you wouldn't feel any pain or discomfort, because you're essentially being cooked alive by the extreme pressure. Think of it like being in a giant oven with temperatures soaring up to 6,000 degrees Celsius, hotter than the surface of the sun. The intense heat would cause your body to pauses for dramatic effect, vaporize at an incredibly high altitude, about 2/3 of the way through the Earth. And then you'd enter the outer core, a liquid iron world where temperatures are still scorching hot and gravity starts pulling you back up towards the surface. Your journey's not over yet, you're just getting started. As you plummet through the molten core, the intense magnetic fields would wreak havoc on your body, causing it to become magnetized itself. Your molecules would start to align with the Earth's magnetic field, creating a bizarre phenomenon where you'd essentially become a human compass needle. The rotation of the Earth would then cause you to oscillate back and forth, like a pendulum in perpetual motion, until you reach the other side, if that were even possible without getting vaporized by the intense heat generated from friction with our planet's atmosphere. But let's assume you somehow manage to navigate this cosmic hurdle. As you emerge on the far side of our spherical home, you'd be in for a treat. The curvature of the Earth would create a stunning visual effect, like being inside a giant soap bubble. The sky would appear severely foreshortened, making it look more like a distorted oval than its familiar blue dome. Your body, still oscillating from your passage through the magnetic field, would begin to interact with the alien landscape in unexpected ways. The Earth's gravity, slightly weaker on this side due to its rotation and the planet's equatorial bulge, might make you feel weightless for a brief moment, an out-of-this-world experience that would leave you breathless. But the most mind-blowing consequence of jumping through the hole would be the temporal paradox. You'd essentially be traveling at incredible speeds, experiencing time dilation effects that could cause hours or even days to pass on Earth while only mere seconds have passed for you. The implications are staggering. You might return to find your friends and family had grown older while you remained youthful and uniged. But let's focus on the jump itself. If you were to travel through a hole that goes all the way through the Earth, the journey would be incredibly long. You'd have to cover over 12,742 kilometers in about 40 minutes at escape velocity, that's roughly Mach 25. The air resistance wouldn't be a problem, but radiation and extreme temperatures would pose significant risks. Assuming you made it through intact, you'd experience a brief moment of weightlessness as you exit the Earth's atmosphere on the other side. Then, you'd start falling towards the ground at an incredible speed, roughly 11 kilometers per second. The landing would be extremely violent and potentially fatal. However, if we ignore these obstacles, it's fascinating to consider what might happen next. You'd likely emerge into a strange, alien-like landscape of twisted rock formations and molten lava flows. The surface you'd land on is not just any ordinary place, it's actually the opposite side of our planet, but with a twist, it's facing in the opposite direction from where we live. Imagine looking up at the sky and seeing the stars and constellations that are invisible to us because they're behind the Earth. It's mind-bending to think about being on the other side of this giant ball we call home. If you were to look around, you'd probably see some pretty dramatic changes in the landscape. Mountains might be inverted, rivers would flow uphill, and gravity would feel slightly weaker due to the reduced mass between you and the center of the Earth. It's like being in a whole new world. But here's the thing, as fascinating as this experience might seem, it's not without its challenges. Let me ask you, have you ever tried to take a selfie on the other side of the planet? I didn't think so. If you enjoyed this thought experiment and want more mind-bending explorations of our incredible universe, be sure to subscribe to our channel for new videos every week. Next up, we're diving into the mysterious world of gravitational waves. Stay tuned.